Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Coaches podcast. I'm your host, Kevin. We're going to 3-week. I'm recording so many of these. And it's like, I've said this a few times today, haven't I? Thank you for being here again. And today I have the pleasure of having with me Randy Wheeler. Randy helps individuals and teams to increase their leadership influence, improve communication, and grow as teams together. He has a master's in organizational leadership, which he uses in combination with John Maxwell's proven leadership content to develop the leaders of today and tomorrow. Randy, thank you for being on the podcast. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Let's begin at the beginning, as I like to say sometimes. And this is kind of a two-part question because I feel like this gets answered in slightly different ways as you kind of go through. This is fun. How did you discover that you were a coach already? A lot of people who set out on the path of coaching, it's almost a process of discovery for them where it's basically they realized that they were already coaching or had the right mental attitude or had the right approach, and then just set out on the journey with more intention. And then also, obviously, on that journey, what prompted you to then start a coaching practice of your own?
Oh, that's a good question. So what's interesting about that question is I was for many years a coach of a different kind. For many years, I worked with athletes and was, which we both know that type of coaching is different than the type of coaching that we do right now. But when I launched into my business and I had one of my first clients, I kind of came home and I was like shocked and looking at my wife. I'm like, hon, I'm getting paid to do what I've all my life naturally done, which is just ask questions and be really curious. So it was just fascinating to me that it was a natural ability maybe that I didn't know I had. Obviously, I was trained and there's some things I didn't know because sport coaching is totally different from sitting across from a business leader, business owner, and being a thinking partner to them. So what the second question was kind of what launched me into starting my practice. So the short version of that story is, like I said, for many years, I was building leaders through sports performance, through what I was doing before. And I was restless. I was like, hey, when I'm 55 years old, do I want to be doing this? And the answer was no, but I didn't know what. So I went back, got a master's in organizational leadership, and I learned about the John Maxwell team, took a day, thought about it. I come home, my wife's like, what are you thinking? And I told her, and she said, well, if you don't have a clear no, then go for it. And we both know if your spouse says go for it and it involves an investment of resources, you go before she changes her mind.
That's fantastic. I love it.
So that was the start of being equipped and learning how to do the business, serve leaders in organizations. And then one thing led to another, building the business while working 60 hours a week, and then eventually jumping off into the unknown of I'm all in after my wife saying to me one night, hey, you're stressing yourself out, you're stressing our family out, you got to kind of choose one or the other. And I knew kind of in my heart that it wasn't a threat. It was more like, hey, I'm with you, make a decision kind of thing. And that's kind of how my journey started, at least parts of the story. There's always more to it.
Yeah, there's always, obviously we keep this a short podcast, but it's a struggle because every single coach I talk to, I'm like, there's so much to your story and also your coaching. I just want to keep asking more questions and go deeper, but otherwise we'd be here for 3 hours, which I would love, but not everybody has 3 hours to listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
I love that you identified that part of the journey that a lot of coaches will certainly talk about, but a lot of people who are either getting into coaching themselves or thinking about it, or who just really enjoy coaching personally, like they've benefited greatly from it. That period where you're basically doing the thing that you were doing and realizing and becoming a coach, where you're basically doing both. And like you're talking about those 60-hour weeks where it's just like you do it can be very difficult to navigate that. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of coaches will have coaches themselves, because that transition can be very daunting for a lot of people. And obviously having a partner like your wife, that's perfect, encouraging, but also pushing you, and that's what we all need. But, not everybody has that in the form of a spouse or a partner like that. But I feel like that's where coaching is especially powerful, because really you just need someone who is there to help guide you, encourage you, and occasionally push you to do the things that you want to be doing, perhaps you're already doing, but just to make that decision, to commit and move forward with intention. And I love that you have that personally and professionally. I like how aligned your journey is.
Thank you.
Not really a question there. I
would say to that it's key to have, I mean, whether coaching business or any business leaders, business owners, and people in general, but we need, and this is for me being a stubborn individual that thinks he can do everything on his own. There's a whole story in this, but I won't share that. But we just need a community around us. And I know, just like you do, that from this aspect of coaching, we can be that trusted kind of thinking partner for those people, those leaders, those business owners that they may have a great relationship with their spouse, but they can't go there with some of that stuff. And it's key for us to have, us even as coaches, to have a community of support. That's what I love for myself about the John Maxwell team, is that it's not only has equipped me and given me resources, but it's a community of support, because the entrepreneurial journey can in one day go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and it can be difficult and lonely, and that community on every level is huge.
Let's talk a little bit about your community, and also about your, I sometimes use the term unique, what's unique about your coaching and differentiator, but I like to talk also about what's maybe the core of your coaching approach. What do you find yourself doing the most often? Is it one-to-one coaching primarily? Do you do group coaching, or maybe some masterminds from time to time? Do you have any courses, or any sort of, do you have a book? It's one of those things that I end up asking everybody, and half the people do, and the other half are maybe thinking about doing one, So yeah, what would you say is the core of your coaching approach and your coaching practice, and the thing that makes you passionate about it?
Yeah, the core of what I do is that one-on-one coaching and acting as that thinking partner. But then I'll go into organizations. A lot of what I do go into organizations, and maybe they're people, the leaders. Before, one leader's talked to me like, "Hey, can you do our on-site, off-site?" I'm like, "Sure." And then she said, "Wow, but it never sticks." I'm like, "Okay, well, why don't we involve again this process?" And we worked through John Maxwell's book, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. Now, what that the book serves as just a catalyst for the conversation. It's not purely about the book. And that's where the group coaching, or the mastermind, kind of comes. I call it more of a mastermind or a leadership roundtable. That's where it comes into play. And that group of leaders, she was like, "Hey, they just don't, they're great workers, but they're in the weeds. I need them to think more like leaders." So that's where we engaged in that process over the course of about 5 different sessions, and dove into that content. They're learning from one another. You know how that all works, but just getting that environment where people can learn and grow from one another, that's been huge to help people get results. So, from the coaching aspect, not even talking about the training aspect of what I do, but the coaching aspect, I'd say at the one-on-one and the mastermind or leadership roundtables are where I see a lot of people getting their results and getting transformation, because every day there's one question they know is going to come at the end. "Hey, what's your action step?" And then they have to, they know that I'm going to ask on the next time, "How'd you do?" Never going to beat them over the head. Might get curious, but because at the end of the day, I'm not attached. It's your growth journey. It's your results. If you want to raise your lid and become a better leader, get better results in your life, you got to do it yourself.
I love that that combination of community and the call to action. Because yeah, like I really like your use of the term thought partnership. That's really a big part of what it is, where you're basically sharing your thoughts and obviously the feelings that come along with that on your own leadership development, where you are, where you want to be going. But then it's not just a thought experiment. You're not just thinking in a circle and then you get to like crack your knuckles, be like, well, that was very instructive and informative. I'm going to go home and, watch a show or, catch the latest game or whatever. I like that call to action. And again, you're not doing it for them. You're not like grabbing them by the scruff of their neck and leading them over to what they need to do. It's like, so, hey, how are you going to put this into practice starting today? How are you going to put this into practice this coming week, this coming month, this coming year? And it's just that question for people who are invested in their own leadership development, just that question, they'll do all the motivating themselves that they need. But that call is a key aspect of it. And I love that you make it a part of your approach.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit task oriented. So I want to know that they're getting results. I want them to know that they're getting value out of the time. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had some clients that they're like, this is great. I'm getting great value out of this, but I'm scratching my head like, I appreciate your money and all, but you're just kind of talking and you never set an action step. And it's like, I'm just kind of, you're paying me to just listen and that's all. And that's cool. I mean, that's cool, but those don't in the long run work out as well because they're not seeing results. I mean, you can't see results if you're not taking action,
I feel like it's a similar what's a bad, maybe bad habit where it's like people will buy all these books, leadership development books, personal development books. They'll buy them. They'll maybe read the first chapter, maybe the preface, maybe they'll just read the dust jacket and then it'll be on their shelf for a while. They'll be like, And like almost the buying of that book or the, engaging with a coach. And then they get this sense of satisfaction and then they stop. They're just like, oh, I did that. My work is done. That's just the start of the work. But I mean, it's your journey. When you're ready, you'll be ready.
Absolutely.
I love that. Absolutely. I love that. I feel like I keep just responding with statements instead of asking follow-up questions because I'm just like I feel like I could have this conversation for hours. I like your approach so much. I like what you do. I like the way you talk about it. But we're already like 15 minutes in, so I should probably get to the part where you tell people where to find you, and not just where to find you in general, but also where you like to engage the most. Some people have a preferred social media platform or messaging that they really like to be reached out. So if anybody wants to know more about you and connect with you, where can they do that?
Yeah, on the social platform, probably the best way to connect with me would be through LinkedIn. And you can just look for my name, Randy Wheeler. I would tell you my profile, but it would be too confusing on a audio. So just look for Randy Wheeler. Wheeler Coaching is also there. You'll see more from me on my personal profile. But my website is wheelercoachingsystems.com. Wheelercoachingsystems.com. A shortcut and it'll get you there is wheelerleadership.net. And you can see different resources that are available, whether that's, I have some digital resources programs that are available. Also a link that takes you to Amazon for some resources I've created, some books and stuff that are on Amazon. So wheelercoachingsystems.com, or if that's too hard to remember, wheelerleadership.net, and it'll reroute you to the right place. So
perfect. I love opening many paths to the same destination.
Yes.
Randy, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your time with us. I know I appreciate it, and I'm sure our audience does too. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
And to that audience, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.